In this video, I'm going to prove to you that things that are both cheap and small can be really cool with this, the new Suzuki Jimny. And as part of the review, of course, I'll be driving it off and on road. Actually, I can just do that here, look. Off road, brum, 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 brum. On road, brum, 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 brum. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, of course, I've got the real car here. My jokes just get worse and worse. Right, let's kick off by talking about this car's design, because this is where the cool factor comes in. Because I mean, just look at it. It's as though a Land Rover Defender and a Mercedes G-Wagon went off-roading for a bit of rough and tumble and didn't wear any protection, and the result was 9 minutes later, this appeared. It's just a cool little thing. In fact, it's so small that it could probably fit in a normal full-size SUV's boot. So in terms of length, it's only 3.6 metres long, width-wise 1.6 metres, but it's still pretty high. It's 1.7 metres tall. So yeah, if we were to go out on a date, it wouldn't be allowed to wear heels because it'd make me feel a bit silly. Now, I reckon this is such an interesting looking car that I've just put a post on my Instagram feed at Matt Watson Cars, and I bet it gets more likes than my other posts. So go there and check it out and see if I'm right.
The Suzuki Jimny has a bit of a cult following. It first went on sale in 1970 as a tiny car you could drive literally anywhere. The Mark II was introduced in 1981 and then the Mark III in 1998, each remaining faithful to the initial concept. And it's worked. In total, almost 3 million Jimnys have been sold worldwide. Needless to say, Suzuki is keen to capitalise on this heritage.
There's various design features from the old Jimnys which feature on this car. Now, you won't know them unless you're a complete nutter Jimny nerd, so I'll show them to you now. For instance, the round headlights are just like on the original Jimny, only these ones are available with high-tech modern LEDs. Ooh. These little horizontal lines mimic the slits that are on the side of the bonnet of the Mark II. These rectangle sections on the grille mimic those of the grille of the Mark III. Wow. As with all previous Jimnys, there's a full-size spare wheel on the tailgate. Ah.
This isn't the only way the new Jimny is faithful to its predecessors. As before, it's specifically built as a proper 4x4. And here's 5 features designed to help it rough it off-road.
Unlike a normal car, the Jimny features a ladder frame chassis. Now, what that means is that you have this strong structure which the wheels and suspension are hung off, then the body goes on top. Now, this provides lots of strength for when you're off-roading, but it does add to the weight. Still, this little Jimny does only weigh 1.3 tonnes, so it's still fairly light for a proper off-roader. When you're driving the Jimny normally, you'll probably just run it in rear-wheel drive mode, but at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour, you can put it into four-wheel drive mode, and then if you stop, you can actually put it into four-wheel drive low ratio mode for some proper off-roading. Just like the back wheels, the front wheels are joined by a rigid axle, and that means that if you go over a bump, lifting up the one wheel pushes the other one down so it can still touch the ground for traction. Thanks to the short overhangs and decent ground clearance, you've got some good numbers for an off-roader. So the approach angle at the front is 37 degrees, the breakover angle, which is the bit in the middle, is 28 degrees, and the departure angle, the bit at the back, is 49 degrees. And those numbers are better than you'll get from a Jeep Wrangler. This little Jimny can brake each wheel individually, and that's really handy if you get into a situation when you're off-roading and diagonal wheels are off the ground, because what can happen is that the power will just be spun away through the wheels with no grip, and the ones that do have grip don't do anything. So the car will actually brake those spinning wheels and send the power back to the wheels that are on the ground to drive it forward.
But just how good is the Jimny off-road? Well, I'm going to test it somewhere those small fashion SUVs would certainly flounder.
Right, I've jumped into a green car so that we don't get our lovely yellow one dirty, and I'm going to put the car into low range four-wheel drive mode and head up this hill. Yeah, let's go, Jimny. I actually have hill hold controls if I want to. I can get on this brake, just here, and it'll hold if I lift off the brake, lift off, look, leg up, and then I can get going again. There we go. Look at that traction, that's brilliant. And then I'm going to go down the hill. So I'm going to press this button down here and go into hill descent control mode, and it'll just do the braking for me. There we go. Look at that. Don't have to do anything. Piece of piddle. Right, and let's try something else out now. See how this car copes when things get a little bit slippery. And here's some water and some very muddy ruts. Gotta keep on moving. Yeah, no bother for little Jimny. Hey! Finally, we're going to check out the chassis articulation, which is basically like car yoga. We're going to see just how flexible this thing is. This is pretty intense. Do you know what? You can spend loads of money on a really expensive off-roader, or maybe buy yourself an old used Defender which is constantly breaking down and having problems and is a pig to live with. Don't bother. Just get yourself one of these Jimnys. They are magic.
Be in no doubt, this new Jimny is the real deal, even though it looks more like a fashion statement than ever before. But is it as practical to live with as something less hardcore?
The boot, well, it's not particularly easy to open it in tight spaces because it sticks out a long way. And the actual volume is around 85 litres, tiny. So if you want to carry anything, you have to go into two-seater mode like this. And then you have the same capacity as the boot on a Kia Stonic. Still, at least the opening's nice and wide and square.
The side doors are almost as big as the tailgate, but there's only two, so getting into the rear seats isn't the easiest thing to do. Plus, the Jimny is a bit tight on rear legroom, and there's only space for two passengers back there. Still, this is not the end of the world, and neither is the interior ambience, or should I say, lack thereof.
Let's just say it's a little bit dark and dingy in here because all the trim is black. Now, Suzuki said in their press brochure that they've done that because they didn't want any interior colours which might distract the driver. That is just marketing BS for that. We wanted to keep the cost down because look, I can see the bright yellow bonnet and I can see bits of bright yellow paintwork here on the inside, and think how much it could lift the cabin with just a few accents in here, and people would pay extra for them because this is not an expensive car really. It's going to start from around £16,000, but you're going to want to spend a bit extra for the SZ5, which will be about £17,500 to £18,000, because then you get a proper satellite navigation system with connectivity for your mobile phone with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get the alloy wheels, you get the clever LED headlamps. You know, you're going to want that car, and it's not expensive. It doesn't feel particularly expensive inside, to tell you the truth. Everything's like kind of hard and brittle, but it's chunky, it looks tough, and it's easy to use.
The biggest problem with the Jimny has always been that by making it good for off-roading, it's always been a little bit crap on-road compared to a more normal car. Thankfully, this new one is a lot better, but it's by no means perfect.
So I'm on the motorway in the new Suzuki Jimny, and first thing I notice is that it seems to be constantly wandering about all over the place, almost like it's a naughty child. No, that way, come on, no, that way. Then there's the fact that, because it's quite tall and it's got very, very flat sides and it's reasonably light, it gets blown about quite a bit. So I've just gone past an HGV and I could feel the wind. And then there's the engine. So 1.5 litre, naturally aspirated, 101 horsepower. So I'm cruising along now and I'm doing around 70 miles an hour at 3,500 RPM. So I'm going to go for another gear. I've actually dropped a gear. The reason is that this car's only got 5 gears. It needs a 6th gear for on the motorway. Yeah, on a long journey, you're going to have to wear earplugs. Right, we're on a piece of unrestricted part of the Autobahn here in Germany, so it's time to max this beast out. Now, if I put my foot down, the engine does pick up okay, but there's not too much pulling power. Could kind of do with a turbo unit, really, this, for a bit more in-gear punch, but let's build it up. Come on, build it up. Here we go. So I'm at 100 and almost 140 kilometers an hour. The engine is screaming, almost 150 kilometers an hour. Oh God, this is scary around this bend. Oh no. Hold on, everybody. Hold on! Come on! We're going to get 160 indicated. We are smashing it. Who needs a Porsche? 160. I tell you what, I've done almost double this on the Autobahn in a Lamborghini Aventador, and it was less dramatic.
I couldn't get the little Jimny to go any faster. I had achieved VMAX at an indicated 160 kilometers an hour, though it actually felt like I was going quick enough to break the sound barrier. Really, this little car isn't great at high-speed cruising, but what's it like at more sedate speeds?
I think this new little Jimny could be a sweet little car to drive around the city because it's quite narrow, so it's easy to fit through gaps. Also, you sit very high. I mean, you sit higher than in any of these kind of fake mini SUVs. So the view forward is brilliant. There's great all-round visibility, massive wing mirrors. It's simple to see where you're going. Also, steering's dead light as well, and the turning circle's not too bad in case you need to do a sudden U-turn. Can I do it round here? No, not quite. To be fair, the turning circle is about the same as a Suzuki Swift or a Volkswagen Up, which is good. And it's especially good for a car that's four-wheel drive. Gear shift is a bit long, but it's not too bad to slot into place. The brakes are a little bit odd though. So you press the pedal and not much happens, and then you press it a bit more, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're braking. Yeah. Other than that, I think it's all right, you know. Just pottering around in a Jimny. All's good. In fact, I tell you what, when you're driving along a little bit quicker in town where it's all a bit broken, the car's always fidgeting and moving around. It's almost like driving down the road on one of those Pilates balls, you know, when you're kind of wobbling and like that, trying to engage your core to keep yourself stable. So yeah, get one of these, drive it around town. You won't need to go to the gym to do your Pilates class.
You can also save on track days too by popping the Jimny into rear-wheel drive mode, turning the stability control off and go drifting Tokyo style.
Oh my God! Just listen to those tyres squealing! Oh, they'll be ruined in no time! Actually, I'm not drifting at all. I'm just going around a roundabout at moderate speed, and it makes this noise. Not much grip this car does have. Let's go this way. Actually, maybe I should explain to you what this car feels like when you do get on a twisty road, because you may encounter one in your Jimny. And yes, it's everything you expect in the way that it leans a lot in the bends, it pitches, it dives, it's moving about all over the place. It's a bit like a boat on a choppy sea, but you can always tell what's happening beneath you. Nothing is necessarily a surprise, and you feel part of the car, you feel involved, and in a way, it's surprisingly good fun.
Thing is though, while I adore this car and it's certainly unique and fit for the purpose Suzuki intended, would I recommend it to someone wanting a cool looking car to get from A to B as fuss-free as possible? Probably not. In the UK at least then, the Jimny will always be a niche vehicle for niche people.